I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
The Wrestling Life.
Hey everybody, it's The Wrestling Life. It's episode 399. We're now in February of 2025. I've already lost my voice. I'm Ethan.
I'm Liam.
Liam, we have so much to talk about this week.
And as always, so many things we can't talk about on the first and only wrestling podcast.
Royal Rumble happened this past weekend, and we have our Wrestlemania main eventers. We don't know which titles they'll be challenging for yet. Well, we kind of know, but we don't officially know yet.
And we know that neither of them will actually main event WrestleMania. So
yeah, I think night 2 closes with John Cena raising a championship. Yeah, so your Royal Rumble winners. The Eat Man, Jey Uso, and Charlotte Flair. You called Charlotte Flair.
Yeah.
I don't remember if either of us called Jey. I definitely didn't call Jey Uso specifically.
Well, you'd be forgiven for that because you may remember, eagle-eyed longtime viewers of the World Wrestling Federation might remember he lost to Gunther clean for that same title 7 days earlier on Saturday night's main event.
Yes.
And at no point did it seem like they were building him up for like, oh, this is like the start of a long-term quest for him to win the world title. Because I think this is like his second or third time he's wrestled for that title anyway. Because I know he wrestled Seth for it. And was there another champion between Seth and Gunther? Who can remember?
I couldn't possibly remember.
But Damien was the champ.
He did wrestle Priest for the title. I think I looked this up and I was surprised that he had only wrestled Gunther on TV for it the once.
Okay, maybe he wrestled Gunther for the IC belt previously then.
That might be it, yeah.
But anyway, regardless, we have seen him go for this title and lose, but at no point was I of the opinion that, oh man, we're really building to Jey finally wins the big one here. But I guess we are, as one of a myriad of cinema stories that we will be treated to by executive producer Paul Levesque and other executive producer Lee Fitting.
How does Sean not get his name? Anyway, I mean, I know why, but
only on NXT, right?
Yes. I don't know. I'd be perturbed if I were him. How about why doesn't Bill Regal have a title there at the end of Raw and SmackDown?
Good question. Yeah, I mean, I guess the Road Dogg and Bruce don't get him either.
That's true. Yeah. Anywho, Jey Uso eliminated John Cena to win the Men's Royal Rumble. The match went, Wikipedia has it timed out as 80 minutes and 15 seconds, making it at very least the longest Royal Rumble of all time. And I saw speculation this week that it may have been the longest WWF match of all time, WWE WWF match of all time. I think this show, let's see, 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2 hours and 55 minutes. We had 3 hours and 9 minutes of wrestling on the show. Boy, did it drag.
Yeah, maybe because there was about one match an hour.
Yeah.
Across a 4-hour show. It was yeah, it was rough. It was rough to get through. Just I guess we could talk big picture and then get into the minutia from there. But like,
sure.
Women's Rumble was not overly impressed with anyone in it. No, I didn't think anyone was bad, but Chelsea Green did some funny comedy in it. She's very good at. Jordan Grace debuted. Like there wasn't a lot. And then as we discussed, the only person they really shoved as like being positioned to win was Charlotte. And it's like, well, Bayley just won last year. As we discussed, didn't seem like Becky would be back yet. So Unless I mean, I think Bianca was maybe the only other name that was bandied about, but yeah, like it felt not particularly in doubt who was going to win at any point to me.
without question. So the women's rumble opened the show. They went an hour and 10 minutes, and Roxanne Perez was the Iron Woman. She was eliminated. She was the final elimination actually by Charlotte Flair. She went over an hour and 7 minutes in the match. Kind of. Roxanne had plateaued in NXT to me, and sometimes she looks like she is a prodigy, as she calls herself, and other times she looks like she is wrestling on the developmental brand. So I hope this is a launching pad for her um, post WrestleMania, maybe to get on the main roster and continue her ascent because she's got it all. But Charlotte Flair threw her out. Surprise entrance, the return of Alexa Bliss,
Mm-hmm.
Hall of Famer Nikki Bella, Hall of Famer Trish Stratus, which I expected because she did not have any WrestleCon signings booked in Indianapolis the weekend, and the woman has never left a meet and greet dollar on the table. She had a WWE affiliated signing, I think, on Friday, but other than that, it was like, oh, well, she's in town. She's not doing WrestleCon. She must be in the Rumble. Jordan Grace back for another Rumble, and this time as part of the roster.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess people expect her to go to NXT. Anyone stand out here? I mean, you mentioned Chelsea's comedy
Mm-hmm.
was a highlight. Bailey was in the match forever. Roxanne and Liv were in it forever. Io Sky was also in it for a very long time. Nia Jax came in and eliminated like she had 9 total eliminations, but I think she just like casually tossed out like 6 people at once. I don't know. What did you think of the layout of this? And was it obvious this was not just TJ Wilson, but TJ Wilson and other people? Or am I don't know. I wasn't overly impressed with the layout, but I thought everybody did a pretty good job of like bumping and feeding when somebody new came in the match.
Yeah, that is a market improvement, I think, over the last couple of women's rumbles that I've watched, is that the basic tenet of all of these matches should be new person runs in ring, everybody bumps for them for 30 seconds, and then you roll to the corners and the next person comes in, and you just keep doing that.
Yeah,
They were better about that this year. Yeah, as far as really memorable thing, I don't know, like Jordan Grace did like a big power move to Piper Niven, which was cool. But yeah, I don't think there's a lot of like super memorable spots in this Rumble, which you don't necessarily always need like the Kofi Kingston thing. I think that kind of got long in the tooth by the ninth year he was doing it.
sure.
So, you can just have a match where, hey, everybody's trying really hard to win, and you just, yeah, there was some, like I said, there was some fun little comedy bits. Yeah, and then like I said, there's definitely times where the ring fills up, and this is the same for the men's. This isn't a specific critique for the women's, I guess, but where you're just like, all right, who's the real star who's about to come out and throw out a bunch of people? Because there's like 9 people in the ring right now. Like you said, it was Naya mostly in this one, but yeah, I mean, I didn't think anyone looked like noticeably terrible in the match. I thought most of the NXT women looked pretty good. Looked like they knew what they were doing, and like they knew where to be. So, like, yeah, I think it was competent. It was not particularly exciting. Like I said, maybe part of that is because I felt like the finish was never in doubt. But yeah, it was fun, and yeah, it felt like the big, maybe the three big returns you mentioned of Nikki, Trish, and Alexa are kind of the only real like WWE moments of the match that they like to call back to.
Have to say, I was a little concerned with how Trish looked in the ring. I don't know if it's father time. I don't know if it's rust. Her stuff didn't look very sharp.
No, I mean she mostly paired off with like Natty and somebody, right? Like I didn't.
She did some stuff on that. She did some stuff with Zelina, and she did some stuff with Candice LeRae, and that was about it.
Yeah. So like I guess I didn't pay enough attention to to Trish's individual spots to notice,
How dare you?
but I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, not being in a match and then being in a match where you have to where most of your stuff is just like, all right, go to a corner and stomp or chop.
Yeah.
It's hard maybe to get back into a rhythm with some of that basic stuff, maybe because you're so worried on making sure you can nail all your signature moves and stuff.
Her stratosphere and her stratisfaction both require jumping. And I don't know if she didn't have good lifting partners who were helping her jump, or I don't know. She didn't look good to me in the ring. In the ring. I'm clarifying in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what else we got here. The NXT presence was kind of limited. Roxanne, Lash Legend, Jada Parker, and Stephanie Vacker and Julia. So definitely just a handful of NXT talent. And hey, they let B-Fab stay in for 7 minutes, and Maxine Dupree got tossed in 80 seconds. I'm not, that's probably, I mean, just letting you know, in their eyes, B-Fab has surpassed Maxine Dupree.
Did Maxine work out in Natty and TJ's garage?
B-Fab does.
Okay,
I don't know
right.
if Maxine has or not.
Okay, because I would say, yeah, I was gonna say I was pretty sure I had seen videos of BFAB working, so maybe that's the difference here. Is the actual real trainers have worked more with her
Right.
than the fake ones that work at the performance center.
Sure. All right. There was a 2 out of 3 falls tag team match for some reason on this program with DIY. This is the dad's match. This is the equivalent. The SmackDown Tag Division is the equivalent of the New Japan Dads with Yuji Nagata and Satoshi Kojima and Tomoyaki Homa and all those guys. That's the SmackDown Tag Division. I like the Motor City Machine Guns, and I think they still look good. And this is probably the best. Working once a week on TV for 5 to 7 minutes is probably the best thing for their careers at this point, and I'm glad
Absolutely.
glad they're finally making big money doing it. That said, boy, the dad energy in this match is just off the charts.
Yeah, it was felt like a lot of let's not get nobody do anything crazy out here, fellas.
I mean,
We're doing a DQ.
I suppose, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it was not look, they went a long time. It was 2 out of 3 falls, so the crowd didn't really get invested until you got to the third fall.
Of
Um,
course,
but
the
yeah,
problem with 2 out of 3 falls matches.
correct. Any match where you tell the audience that the ending can't happen for a long time. I mean, wrestling fans in 2024 in general, it's very hard to keep them invested in a match
Mm-hmm.
when the actual wrestling starts anyway, particularly in WWE. But yeah, especially if it's 2 out of 3 falls or Iron Man or Last Man Standing or anything that requires a long time. Uh, it's just not going to be great. And yeah, these guys, it was I didn't find it offensive, but it wasn't very good. And then the finish was bad. They did, for reasons that I'm sure make sense to them, they did a fake injury thing where they had Angelo Dawkins walking around on crutches all week or all weekend, like he was shoot hurt.
Right.
And then he wasn't hurt, and the Street Profits beat up both teams with crutches. And then they went on social media and talked about how isn't it funny that the dirt sheets reported that I was actually hurt. It's like, okay, I don't know. Are we trying to weed out a mole or something? Like, what was the point of all of that? But yeah, Angelo
I
Dawkins pretended to be hurt for 12 hours and then he wasn't.
They also, when Alexa Bliss came out, Wade Barrett and Michael Cole were yelling about "Don't trust dirt sheets,"
Mm-hmm.
and then Triple H at the post-show press conference went on to think about they don't know. Nobody knows. We do what we do. Nobody knows. It's like it's very they're so gotten to. It's like I
They're
thought that
winning by triple digits and they're
yes,
so mad when the slightest bit of like something that isn't complete effusive praise is heaped upon them.
yes, exactly. I it's bizarre. I thought that would end when the old regime left. The old regime will be back, by the way. The
Uh-huh.
most underreported story in wrestling. He's coming back.
Almost assuredly.
But yeah. I anyway, just bizarre. Uh
Which, by the way, like apparently Alexa is represented by
Mojo Raleigh.
Mojo Raleigh, and
Yeah,
he's literally tweeting like, "Congrats on signing your new deal Saturday morning, the day of the Rumble, Alexa Bliss."
right,
So yeah, the dirt sheets don't know anything, even though they reported that they don't have a deal. She'll be there if they sign a new deal by then.
right.
Like, don't get me wrong, plenty of opportunities to crap on wrestling reporters at times,
Oh,
but
without a doubt.
again, but for whatever reason, the real times you can do that are not enough, and we need to invent that they were worked or they were lying when they said that Alexa Bliss did wanted a new contract or whatever. I guess I don't know.
Right.
I don't know
It,
what we're doing.
it's absolutely bizarre. Cody Rhodes beat Kevin Owens in a good ladder match for the undisputed WWE Championship. They had a nice match.
Yeah, I mean, look, you kind of felt like somebody could die at one point, 1 or 2 points on the bumps Kevin was taking. So
Yeah.
you got that feeling back in a ladder match in WWE for the first time in a few years. Yeah, I don't know. No, I think again nobody thought Kevin was going to win, so that maybe hurt the match again. But it's about the stunts and the spectacle, and I credit them for trying to work it maybe a bit more like an old school ladder match, even though you're doing all the big stunt bumps. In that it's like two guys that are trying to hurt each other with the ladders, as opposed to let's do some acrobatics.
Right.
So they tried to have like a big serious grudge match. It was good. It wasn't great, but it was good.
Kevin and Sammy looks like they're going to wrestle each other at WrestleMania. And
Again,
yeah. I'm not super pumped about this one. Uh,
I thought if
it,
anything, it was going the other way. I thought Sammy was turning.
I I thought we were going to end up I don't know. I don't think Sammy I don't know, man. The everything with the top matches, everything just slightly under that is so muddled. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like the way they told the story makes sense, right? Kevin went to Sammy before the match and said, "If I need help, I know I can count on you." And and then Sammy came out and instead of helping Kevin win the title by knocking Cody off the ladder or whatever, he tended to his injured friend. I don't know what
Right.
Kevin wants, right? And it's
He
like,
wanted him to cheat.
right, right, but he's a heel. I understand, but anyway, um, and then Kevin laid him out on Raw.
Right. And I think the idea is we can go to, because so much of most of the top heels in this company are just at their core mad that Roman Reigns is a babyface now,
Yes,
righteously so.
yes,
Um, and so I think it'll be like Kevin will be like, well, you went back to the bloodline guys, but you won't come back and help me, even though I stood by you when they all beat the tar out of you.
right,
But you wouldn't help me beat Cody, who was a traitor, and now you're a traitor too. Like they can, like you said, it's not like it doesn't make sense
right.
given the last few weeks of television. It's just that the overarching direction and destination are like, oh, okay. Um, well, we've seen these guys wrestle a lot before and after they've been in WWE. I've actually seen them wrestle at a WrestleMania before.
Yeah,
So not particularly exciting to just do it again, but I don't know, maybe they'll let them do like a crazy stipulation match this time or something. I don't know.
we'll see. Uh, Royal Rumble, Jey Uso. We touched on this already. Jey Uso won the match. ISHO Speed was in the match. I don't know if that means anything to anyone else. Doesn't mean anything to me other than boy, do they love bragging about their viral moments as well.
Mm-hmm. I will
That was
say,
yeah,
if we're gonna have to have this sort of thing on the show,
yeah.
he took like the hardest bump a celebrity has ever taken on a wrestling show.
Oh yeah. If they had, they wouldn't let one of their wrestlers take that.
Correct. Not the spear or the like fall away slam where Otis just threw him like a sack of shit onto the
Yeah,
announce table.
yeah, yeah. He whatever they paid him, he earned it.
Mhm.
Um, Joe Hendry from TNA was in the match. I think most people expected that. He was
Uh,
in it for all of 3 minutes.
to say if you want to see what get a little preview of this WWE TNA partnership, he did his little song. He came out. He did two offensive moves, and then he got his ass beat, and Roman Reigns threw him out. While Michael Cole talked about how he might be the TNA champion, but he's never been to the big time like he is tonight.
Unbelievable. Michael Cole was awful on this show, by the way.
He was.
I have no problem giving that man praise when he deserves it. He was dreadful
He's
all
also
night.
like he's flying too close to the sun.
Oh, without a doubt.
He's reading all the things that people have liked that he's done the last couple of years. And so
Yes.
now he's constantly like jumping up and down and very much making the moments about him.
Yes.
And Pat obviously feeds into that as well.
Yes.
So it's like there's a lot of time where the announcers are making things about themselves on these shows, especially when it's Cole and Pat.
Yes. I don't know. I think I have some kind of voice blindness when it comes to Pat McAfee because he doesn't bother me the way that he bothers everybody else in the world, even though I understand and agree with most of the criticisms of him. It's like he's a softball homer bootlicker who's gonna have, he's gonna have Hulk Hogan on his show and toss him softballs. And back in the day, he had Vince on the show and tossed him a bunch of softballs
Mm-hmm.
and whatever. It Pat McAfee in general doesn't bother me. I think he's sincere in his dimwittedness, even though he's a like a shark when it comes to doing business. I think his dim-wittedness is earnest, and he really just does love being a part of it, and so he doesn't bother me. But where do you land on on a 3 hour Raw? It's a lot. The paper usually it's the opposite. Short segments on Raw and stuff, I can deal with them fine. And then when it's on pay-per-view and he has to talk for an extended period of time, it bothers me. But I think I just was blind to Pat on this show. Thoughts on him in general and the announcing on this show?
Yeah, I mean the announcing wasn't good. Again, not all of it's their fault. They them trying to explain the convoluted tag title finish.
Yes.
They were still trying to explain it like into the next segment.
Yes.
There was also a lot of them because, as mentioned, because they only had 4 matches on this show, there was a lot of filling for whatever reason. We couldn't just go to the next match. I guess because Peacock has to air commercials or whatever.
I don't understand,
But
man.
Peacock's commercial breaks, because I think I have the Peacock ad tier,
Right.
and it's like they're like 90 seconds of commercials. Like, so they should be able to just like play a video package and get to the next match. There shouldn't need to be 45 minutes.
Exactly. It's also not like I don't know. I guess I'd forgotten about the commercial tier and why there might be so much dicking around on these shows. But it's like nothing is happening for 25 minutes at a time. It's like,
Yes.
and they're not like obviously running Totino's pizza roll ads or cinnamon toast crunch ads or Intuit
They, they
TurboTax
were
ads.
showing Pat's punting highlights for like a long time.
Yes, several minutes.
They did I guess some of these were like Indiana tourism videos that I assume they got paid to run.
Right.
So there's like a thing about the Indy 500 in there, and like the stadium and all this stuff. It's like what a waste of everyone's time. That's when I really start to lose it on Pat and Cole, is that, and now these Netflix Raws, where even though it always says when I turn on the Netflix Raw, this tier contains ads or this program will contain ads. I don't get ads. I get the, I guess, what is still considered like the international feed of where Michael Cole and Pat are riffing for time and throwing to Jackie for interviews and stuff.
Yes.
And all of that where it's Michael Cole and Pat McAfee having to riff
Yes.
without a net, some of the
Yes.
worst television this company has ever produced.
Yeah, it's quite bad. It is quite bad. Jackie Redmond interviewing Karrion Kross in the audience is like 60% of Raw somehow. I I've never seen anything like it. Karrion Kross is never on the actual body of Raw.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he cuts multiple promos with Jackie Redmond every week. It's bizarre.
His storyline is that he turned the Miz heel.
Yes. That
And
shipped him off.
right, they feuded forever with the Wyatt people,
Yeah.
and then the Wyatt people got moved to SmackDown, and so did the Miz.
Yes.
Um, at which point his faction has had no direction.
Yes.
Because no one, I assume none of the, well, most of the other people on the show are heels or in a heel faction. So I don't know who's left. I guess he could feud with the Latinos eventually, but
Seth hasn't. I don't know. Seth hasn't really had a program for a while. Sami Zayn's wrestling is Kevin Owens again. Those are two guys who at least were baby faces that are, hey, I don't know, man.
it's like at least when like everyone was noticing that Karrion Kross isn't very good, or at least that he has limitations.
Yes.
I don't want to completely dispel the guy's talent, although it's been a while since I've seen it.
It's questionable. Sure.
But like when he was in NXT and they made him the champ right away and they gave him the cool entrance, all the things that Adam Cole said in that promo.
Yes.
That
ruined his career.
Yeah. It's like that's not his fault that they gave him all that. And
right.
I feel for the guy, and then he got fired, and then Paul, because of his guilty conscience, rehired him.
Right.
But then it's like, but Paul didn't go back to pushing him to the moon. Like he's been a not even mid card, like lower card guy. He mixes it up with the Bobby Lashley and Street Profits team that was never on TV. And
right.
then he moved over to Raw and started feuding with the Wyatts. So it's like Triple H doesn't seem to have the same gusto for him that he used to. So it's like I don't know why he's still here. He doesn't feud with any of the top guys. And he only really interacts, as you mentioned, through backstage segments where he's like making an evil face while a baby face is mad. Like yes, this is all part of my plan. Is it? All right.
We'll see how this plays out, man, but your plan is not evident.
Not really.
Yeah.
Or like what you get out of it. Like how does this lead to you winning the world championship or whatever your goal would be?
Yeah. Do you have a goal? I don't
just
where do you
make people turn heel? Is that your
exactly
thing? Are you Satan?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years, Karrion?
Why is Paul Ellering here? Has anyone noticed that Paul Ellering wasn't good at his job in like the 80s and 90s, and yet he's still on this show now?
I don't know. That's another weird one. I don't understand. Like, was Paul Ellering Killer Kowalski's best friend or something? If there's a connection here, I don't understand between Ellering and Connecticut. Like, why is he a Hunter guy? I've never gotten it. Anyway, Jey Uso won the men's rumble. That one wasn't my fault.
Agreed.
Jey Uso wins the men's rumble. And they, of course, have milked on WWE programming all week. Charlotte was on Raw. Charlotte was on NXT. Charlotte will be on SmackDown on Friday. Jey Uso skipped NXT, but he was on Raw, and he's going to go chat with Cody on Friday. So they decided to milk this because it's what they do, and they also have 2 extra weeks this year between the Rumble and Mania. So, boy, if they tell stories at a snail's pace,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll continue. Still feel like we're getting Cody, Cena, and Jay and Gunther, and Charlotte and Tiffy. What do you think?
Yeah, I think those seem to make sense. I just none of the other possibilities, like Jay and Cody, would be such a weird match to book, and it doesn't seem possible.
Yes.
um, like I said, it doesn't make sense to me that Jay is gonna. Like I said, I didn't get the feeling that does feel like the direction they're going is that, oh, Gunther's beaten him before, and can he dig down deep and finally conquer this guy? But it's like I don't know. I don't really feel like they've earned that. But it's fine. People love Jey Uso,
That's fair.
whether I do or not. Um,
Right.
I just like this goes back to Joe Hendry being in this Rumble as the world champion of a promotion.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being an opening match tag guy. Like you can go
Yeah.
watch a Raw from 1998. It was getting like the second biggest pop on that show behind Steve Austin.
New Age Outlaws.
Absolutely. And no one was ever like, well, well, we did try to push Billy Gunn for like a second, but
Right.
we pretty quickly realized, no, that's not, that's not,
Well,
that's not hit, that's not for Bill.
they picked the tall guy rather than the guy that was more over too, which didn't
Correct,
help.
correct. But yes, so like absolutely, Jey Uso would have a place on this show every week. Joe Hendry could have a place on my wrestling show every week, and that place is in an opening tag match. And yet one guy is main eventing TNA, and well, I mean, you could argue that the difference between main eventing TNA and being an opening match tag guy is just about like that. But yeah, for Jay, yeah, he'll probably be in the opening match on one of the nights of WrestleMania here, because obviously he's not, I don't even think he's getting the night one main event, much less the real one. So yeah, it's not what I would have done. But to be fair, I really don't know who I would have put with Gunther. I don't know why this belt exists, because none of the top guys seem to care about this belt. It's Punk, Roman, Cena, they all want Cody's belt. Kevin. So it's like the only guys that seem to want Gunther's belt are like Damian Priest and Jey Uso. So yeah, I feel for the guy, but so maybe this is just a way of like, we have no idea what we're gonna do. Like we have no idea what to do with this guy. So we'll just pick the most popular baby face of the crop that isn't already busy in a real like serious match at this show.
My favorite part of the Rumble was probably the Seth Rollins Roman Reigns angle.
Mm.
Um, I mean, I don't know. I didn't think it was an all timer or anything, but you have so much rich lore here, over a decade's worth of lore
And if
with
you missed that, Michael Cole told you about how
ugh,
many stories there were in the match.
yeah. Seth stomped his former, one of his former best friends. He stomped his head into the floor. Punk somehow got involved. As
That
you
part
accu-
was
you
stupid.
well, you accurately pointed out, a three-way at WrestleMania between Seth and Roman and CM Punk seems like his insurance against whether Dwayne wants to show up March 1st and decide he's in the WrestleMania main event against Roman Reigns. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was like they set the stage for that match well.
Mhm.
But then on Raw on Monday, Seth Rollins just came out dressed like Trish Stratus, and Trish Stratus or The Undertaker, maybe, I'm not sure. And totally no sold the fact that he had stomped his best friend's face into the floor the last time we saw him. I don't know what we're doing here, man.
That is like, I mean, this has been a large disconnect for me with Seth for literal years now. Which is that whenever they put him in any sort of serious angle, he's dressed like Michael PSA's.
Yes.
Oh, and we'll maybe touch on
Mm,
him in a second.
mm.
But yeah, like it's so unserious. and he's doing the fake laugh, and he's dressed ostentatiously because that's how his wife got over. Why doesn't he try the same thing?
Right.
Actually, she got over it and then she started dressing like that. But
Yeah.
sometimes we miss the forest for the trees.
No one's ever accused him of being a bright guy.
No, clearly. But yes, so the fact that this should be a drastic shift now, right? This should be, he should be serious Seth now. He's the heel. He's taken revenge, and the playtime and the laugh, and they should change his music because if he's a heel, why is he trying to lead a sing along of his song? But no, he's still got the same song. He's still dressing like a goof, and he's still doing the laugh, and I just hate it. I hate it. Like the angle itself, I agree with you. It was done well. I was annoyed at the preamble to it, where Roman is upset that Punk threw him out of the Royal Rumble.
Yes.
And then Punk is like jawing with Roman, who's on the floor, and then Logan Paul comes up and throws Punk out. And then Punk and Roman are like arguing with each other on the floor about like, how dare you? How could you do this to me? And it's like, what do you mean? It's the Royal Rumble.
Right.
Were you gonna like hold hands and walk and step off at the same time so you tied? Like was
Right.
that Paul Heyman's secret plan? Like so like at some point you guys were gonna try to throw each other out. So I don't know. That part annoyed me, but then that didn't take that long because then Seth started beating everybody's ass, and that was good. So yeah, the follow-up was not great, but that part was good. And then part of our prediction came true, I think, which is that we have to tell some stories with John Cena, so he can't just win the Rumble outright. We gotta build some stumbling blocks along the way, even though, as he's pointed out, he hasn't won a match in like 800 days or something.
Why has John decided that he needs to tell us that he's a loser every time we see him, and why is the company allowing that?
Very good question. And then he does like this because he's not going to be around for the next month to build up this pay-per-view that he's wrestling on. He just announced himself as in the chamber, and he uses this weird like pseudo heel thing about like I need to be more like I'm going to be more selfish because it's best for business that I'm in the main event of WrestleMania.
Yes.
Like, I don't. Okay, maybe that's the angle. Are we going to have John Cena play the final boss since Dwayne quit on that character? Again, Hollywood John.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
I mean, this is a great way to bring Hulkster back to TV.
Mm.
Hollywood Hogan as the manager of Hollywood John Cena.
Sure, why not? Well, that's the Royal Rumble. John did not take questions at the post Royal Rumble press conference.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah. As I hinted at earlier, the most underreported story in wrestling right now, Vince McMahon is either going to be back in TKO imminently, or he's going to start his own wrestling company. And I don't think TKO wants Vince McMahon to compete against them with The Undertaker and Steve Austin and eventually John Cena and whoever else he can get. I don't like, would it be a successful wrestling company? Probably not, but it would be very well funded and he could probably get it on television. And for that reason, they wouldn't want him. They'd rather him in the house pissing out, as the old disgusting phrase goes.
Yeah, well, as mentioned, there's his very good friend is the president again.
Yeah.
So I think the odds of him ever facing serious federal prosecution have dropped to less than 1%.
Yeah.
At least
he
over
is
the next 4
facing
years.
he is still facing the amended lawsuit
Mm-hmm.
that was filed this past week that had it was short on new details besides implicating Michael Hayes in someone who received pornographic material and mentioning that Paul Levesque's office shared a wall with Johnny Ace's office, which had a connecting door to Janelle Grant's office.
That the offices were all built with Nick Khan's knowledge.
Right, Nick Khan and Brad Bloom. Brad Bloom, who's currently working for Vince in his new company.
So, like, Yeah, I don't know. Maybe would have been good to ask Paul the question, since that's the only time any executive for WWE ever takes questions from the press. But
We we've talked about this before. I don't think that's the appropriate venue to ask questions like that, but also there is no other venue, so it kind of has to be the appropriate
mhm.
venue. I don't know.
And as somebody probably Brandon Thurston pointed out, there are questions you can ask that don't require them to comment on the ongoing lawsuit itself. You
Sure.
can ask them questions about the overall, what's being done to ensure the safety of your employees. You can
Yeah.
ask them, what did you know? Was WWE aware of the allegations against Lee Fitting at ESPN when you hired him?
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that can and should be asked. And unfortunately, Paul Levesque is the Dana White of wrestling now. And as much as he hates being on camera, we all know this. He sure does make himself visible. And Nick Khan has kind of drifted pretty far into the background. Except if there are like Netflix executives in town, then he's there at ringside pretending he gives a shit about Paul's little wrestling show. But yeah, I don't know. There is still a civil case. Maybe that has to be cleared up before he decides to either go back to his old job uh or get a new one. But yeah, he's not done
No.
one way or the other. And as we've probably talked about on the show before, TKO WWE would have a vested interest in the very least at being able to not have to Chris Benoit him out of all of their footage
Yeah.
for the rest of time.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they would like to be able to have some sort of agreement in place where they can at least feel that they're and they will probably dip a toe here and there, show them in the back, kind of like what they did with Hogan before they put him back on TV.
Yes.
Show him in a little bit of archive footage, don't draw attention to it, and then eventually one week he's just back. that's
Yeah.
that's kind of how these things go. So hey, maybe we're wrong, and then maybe there's going to be consequences for just this one very wealthy old man, but seems unlikely.
That it does. AEW, any thoughts on their programming this week? Their Collision show, obviously nobody watched it because it was up against the Royal Rumble. Their Dynamite show, 600,000 people watched this week. Virtually identical to last week. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on Dynamite besides it's not a fun show to get through. And MJF really needs to go away. Um, really, really, really needs to go away, and he needs to stay offline. I don't know, man. What stands out to you from the last week or so of AEW programming?
Well, the best promo on the show is Dustin Rhodes currently. Um,
Yeah,
I like the Tony Storm and Mariah stuff
who
uh,
could, who wouldn't?
for many reasons, all of them super respectful. Yeah, no, that stuff's good as it always has been. And there's certain things where like in a bottle, this isn't bad. It's just part of it. There's just looking up and down the show. There's so many, and again, these are not new problems. It's a little like complaining about Raw being too long. It's like, yeah, there's so many freaking heel factions on this show. Like there's so many. There's Christians guys and the Hurt Syndicate are kind of tweeners now, I guess. Which could let them be baby faces, because at least then we'd have a dominant babyface group who wins all the time. That would be nice.
They're still being booked as heels though.
Yes,
They may realize that they accidentally created the Road Warriors, but they're still currently being booked as heels. So we'll see how that plays out.
correct. But it's like you got Jericho's crew, which is awful. Like mostly because of Jericho, because I find Big Bill and Brian Keith both pretty entertaining. So like if you just had those guys as a tag team on the show, it would probably be fine. But and then you got the main event stuff, and then you got the Don Callis guys who are all over the show, multiple segments. Um Like, yeah, it's just
Don Callis was on commentary for 2 matches in the first hour of Dynamite this week.
unbelievable. Actually, very believable. But yeah, awful.
Yeah.
So I think that's we were discussing offline. The pattern is currently the heels run wild every single Wednesday night, and then the baby faces get their revenge on Collision that half as many people watch.
Yep.
And maybe the top 2 or 3 angles get replayed on Dynamite, but it's sparse. It's 15 seconds, 20 seconds here and there.
Yep.
And then we go right back to next Wednesday. All right, well, babyfaces had their turn. Time to get more heat. And then we just lay out all the babyfaces again and again and again. So, look, we got a Grand Slam show in a couple of weeks. We got a pay-per-view in March.
Next Saturday.
Right. Or less than a couple of weeks. And then
pay-per-view a month away.
Yeah. We got another month where apparently we're getting Cope and Mox for the title on pay-per-view. I was maybe hoping that was going to be the Australia match, but they're doing a tag match with the Rated R superstar Cope and his little buddy Jay White.
Yeah.
To set up Cope going for the title, not Jay. Cope is going to wrestle for the world title.
It feels like with enough bullying, we could the online fans could bully Tony Khan into making that a 3-way.
Yeah, maybe. You know what you should. Not that you need more heat on this show, but you know what I was thinking of? Jay should come in and be like, I hate that this old man stole what probably should have been my title match, and he should just turn heel on Cope and lay him out and cost him the belt. But
fine, he's a terrible babyface. He should be a heel.
Well, he was, and they took away all his guys, all his weird little guys that he had around him. That at least made him a little more entertaining as a babyface.
Billy Gunn's dickhead sons just returned. They were off TV for 5 months because one of them was injured. Juice broke his leg.
Right, Juice is going to be gone for a while, unfortunately. But so yeah, the Guns are doing their own thing seemingly, and Jay is off teaming with FTR and the Rated R superstar Cope. So do anything to parachute Jay out of that story after Grand Slam, but we'll see. It's not great. Like I said, it's dire, and the shows are really rough to watch. It's like there's a lot of stretches of. It's such a weird mix of, like, as mentioned, 2010s WWE and like 2008 TNA. Because it's a lot of heat and it's a lot of old dudes being pushed and beating all the young guys while claiming that they're actually helping the young guys by beating them all.
They're here to help the next generation get ready.
That's right. So at least the Hurt Business aren't saying that. They're just like, yeah, we're just here to beat everyone's ass. We're not. They're not cutting promos about how they're excited to help the next generation. Like, at least be honest about it if you're gonna do that. But yeah, it's tough. Like I said, they're gonna do Dustin Rhodes versus MJF on a Tuesday night Dynamite, and Dustin cuts better promos than Jeff or MJF do. So maybe that should be the feud.
Yeah,
but yeah, I don't know. That also felt like Dustin was there to be the vessel of the audience because he was complaining about how bad MJF's promos are.
Yes.
Like, stop bringing up people's wives and drug addictions and dead friends, you little bitch. And
yes,
you're annoying and you suck.
Yeah. So, he's right. He's right about it.
It was very cathartic. And wouldn't you know, the crowd responded to it. And then there were 3 separate pull apart brawls on this show, which also screamed as you maybe pointed out, maybe Tony is a little checked out because it's Super Bowl weekend and there's a lot of parties and shindigs to get to, but a lot of cut and paste wrestling booker video game segments on Dynamite this last week or so.
Yeah. Anything else you would like to discuss on this week's show?
No, I think that about wraps it up.
All right. Till next time, everybody. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Liam.
We'll be back soon with more stories from the wrestling life.
Adios.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Now, here are this week's bonus features.
Kelsey Grammer's quote to Ted Danson?
Loving you is as easy as the sunrise. Ted, it's all, let's bury the hatchet. Loving you has always been very easy for me. It's easy as the sunrise.
I'm glad their feud that may or may not have been real has been put to rest finally.
Well, I'm appreciative of RJ City outing himself as a huge, maybe a poor choice of words on my part, as a huge Frazier fan this week by discussing the story online for several days.
Yes.
Which for the hell. Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Variety put out a story this week. This is the second Ted and Kelsey have buried the hatchet story of like the last 3 months.
Oh.
Apparently this came up. Okay, so it was in the news again this week because the New York Post asked Kelsey about it and he gave them a comment. But the original thing, like Kelsey Grammer went on Ted Danson and Woody Harrelson's podcast, which was produced by Conan O'Brien for some reason.
Sure.
In like November, and they all, when he was promoting the second season and perhaps final season of Frasier, and they buried the hatchet there. Yeah, but they may or may not. It didn't seem like a very big blow up. It was just like Danson confronted Grammer on Cheers for showing up in no condition to work and not knowing his lines. And Kelsey was like, yeah, that's totally fair of you to be mad at me for that. I was drunk at the time. It's like, well, maybe if we'd been able to get on the same page, we could have been great friends for the last 40 years. Instead, we were casual coworkers who both guested on each other's sitcoms over the years. Like, it's not like it was a blood feud and they weren't speaking. Like,
right.
I don't know.
It wasn't Dwayne and Vin Diesel levels.
Right. Yeah. Anyway,
they weren't litigating who gets the most quips in each script. Exactly.
How much time Danson could be shown in a dominant position over Crane,
right? Exactly.
Over Grimmer. Yeah.
Wait. So did Kelsey play Frasier on Becker?
I don't know. I saw
right because that breaks the universe. Because Ted Danson is somebody else in
exactly.
Frasier.
You would definitely think that was that he couldn't, but
unless you just do a one line like, "Oh, you look like somebody I know."
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure you would have to do that. Have to do that, right? Like these are hack sitcom writers.
Right.
Becker, by the way, the first a precursor to House, in which the entire premise of the show is he's a doctor, but he has a bad attitude.
And he always like makes an outlandish claim about the patient who's sick, and everyone's like, that can't be it. It's something simple. And he's like, actually, you idiots, it's not. It's something weird.
Right. That's specific to House.
Okay.
The House was a quote unquote drama. So there was more of that. But yeah, definitely. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to your point. Horrible improv. But he was very much kind of in the same tone. It was very much, I know everything and you don't know anything in the same manner.
Got it. All right. I have no idea what Becker was about. I know it has a ripping theme song.
Nice. I haven't I used to
it's like just a guy shredding on a guitar for some reason.
Great. We need more of that.
I try to keep on keeping on.